Greetings and welcome to another episode of Tell It Like It Is. I'm your host Morris, man, and my co-host is.
Joseph Spencer.
And today the topic is drugs, and that's a topic that I think everybody should be aware of and everybody can relate to. Uh, I say this and I say it again. Forgive me for sounding like a broken record, because people always ask me, since you've been in the entertainment business for all these years, I'm surprised you ain't on drugs or using alcohol, because unfortunately those two go hand in hand, drugs and alcohol in the entertainment industry. But I think what kind of kept me away from that is being educated by my mother and father to sit me down and say, hey, this is the reason why it's not a good idea to put poison in your system. And they set me down and they kind of educated me as far as the reason why this is not a good idea. It made sense to me, and I never involve myself in drugs, alcohol, anything like that. I don't drink, I don't smoke, because once you realize how magnificent the human body is, you might think twice about putting poison in it deliberately. Because, it's interesting if you think about it. You go to sleep because you're tired, you shut it down. And, when you shut it down, the organs keep working. It's not like when you lay down and take a nap, the heart take a nap too and stop beating, stop pumping blood. All the other organs are still working too. And you think about that, it's just unbelievable that for as long as you're on this planet, whether it's 40 years, 70 years, 80 years, or 100, your body is working. Your heart continues to pump blood until you leave here. So that's why, I've never had a desire to put poison in my system, because I know it's not good for me. I see people that smoke and they say, I have a hard time stopping because of nicotine. And I can understand that even though I don't smoke, but the question I have is, and I guess I already know the answer to the question is, if you knew that it was going to be tough, why did you even start? But people have different reasons for doing what they do. But I'll turn it over to you and get some of your thoughts.
Smoking is like any other drug. It's started off to being a social thing, and I'm somewhat older than you, and it was a propaganda that when I was a kid. It was a romantic thing. You saw it on the movie. They advertised it, so forth and so on. And when I was a kid, drugs were also advertised.
It was cool.
They
cool
showed it. Most of the movies showed it as taboo. You have the upper middle class kids who got caught in it. There was two or three of them, and you had the kids who were in the ghetto, which was 90% of the ghetto, which was not true. But there are some people just get caught up in crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, peer pressure,
peer pressure,
lack of education or knowledge of, this is probably not a good idea. Because I was watching a program about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and there was these two people. They had opposing opinions on this topic, and it was alcoholism. And what they want to kind of do for alcoholism is kind of categorize it as a disease. And I'm like, I don't think so. To me, and this is just my personal opinion, it's a learned behavior. If you are a teenager and your daddy drinks a lot and become alcoholic, most likely you're going to become because you've seen them doing it. And even though you're probably not conscious that, you've made that decision based on that, you have made that decision. But, disease is something that invades the body voluntarily, as opposed to you putting alcohol in your system and messing up your liver.
When I was 16, 17 years old, I became friends with some upper middle class and wealthy North Shore WASP kids. They lived on North Shore, and every apartment or home I went into, they had a bar. And I actually thought it was like, being from the South Side, never seen anything like that. I actually thought they were running a bar. They had that much booze on the wall. Mm-hmm. And some of my little WASP friends told me they started drinking when they were 11. The parents, they were latchkey kids. The parents invited everybody over to have a doobie. And they drank. I had a friend, by the time he was 22, he had the shakes, And like you said, it's a learned thing. Like cigarettes and stuff like that, I remember they would tell you cigarettes were good for your digestion.
Because I work with a gentleman that he was 37 when he passed away from cirrhosis of the liver. And before he got sick, we used to have these conversations, and he told me that his father was alcoholic. So it's kind of a learned behavior that you pick these things up according to your environment. Because there's a movie with Eddie Murphy and what's that, Dan Aykroyd from Saturday Night Live. The way that they marketed that movie, I thought was not a good way, because it was a comedy, but yet it was a serious movie. Because that was a really good concept or storyline. As far as the argument was this: these rich guys, it was two rich guys, and one of them felt that in order to become really bad, it's all about environment, not
Right.
heredity.
Heredity.
And they set out to prove that by taking a guy from a poverty-stricken situation, Eddie Murphy character, and put him into the rich fold. And they took Dan Aykroyd, who was born, of upper-class status, and thumped him in the gutter.
And he became a pimp.
Exactly. So, I tend to agree that, it's not about a biological thing. It's not a heredity thing. It's an environment thing.
Some of it is heredity.
Yeah, but for the most part, I think it's environment.
Oh, heredity and environment. I've had Irish friends that I love dearly. When you look at their family photographs, all the way back to the 1890s, their great-great-grandfathers and great-uncles and stuff are sitting in the pub doing this. And by the time we got 19 and 20, I'm sitting around with a bunch of Irish guys doing this. So I think a lot of stuff can be hereditary.
Yeah, there are some things, but I think on the whole, it's more or less your environment. Because here's something interesting.
Well, that's part of the environment. Heredity is part of the environment.
True, but when I say heredity, I mean from a biological standpoint.
It becomes a biological thing. Like in Africa, people didn't drink hard alcohol. They drank beer and wine.
Yeah, well, things change. I mean,
Yeah.
the way that we do things versus
Yeah.
100 years ago. But I was driving down the street, and this had to have been about
That
7,
was
8 years ago.
on holidays. They drank beer and wine.
So
Certain parts of
I
Africa.
was watching these two kids cross the street, and they couldn't have been no more than about maybe 7 to 9 years old. And I looked at these kids, and I really got a good look at them as they was crossing the street, and it kind of dawned on me because the area I was in was an area that was at that point, quote unquote, was going down. And I'm looking at these kids versus how I look because I got pictures of me when I was their age. My eyes are white, my skin is clean and smooth. I look like a kid. I'm looking at the skin texture, the eyes, the color of the eyes, and these little kids look like they were like 35 years old looking at them. My eyes and, the skin. And so, environment plays a very important part in your physical and emotional and mentally development.
Yeah, like you talk about that food thing. Like I had moved up, I got my first apartment on the north side in Lincoln Park area, and for years I had stopped eating soul food because you can't get no soul food in a WASP area. So I was eating WASP. The further north I got, my diet changed. I went up to Canada for quite a spell and was completely away from American diet.
Oh, yeah.
Skin cleared up, my eyes were white like yours. You got them little baby eyes. I hate you. And when I got back here, I noticed my skin, and then I started getting knots and stuff under my armpit. I go to the doctor. He said, "She died. Where have you been?" Yeah. And then the further south you came in Chicago, the worse the diet got. Black people, our people, they depend on greens. It's not just about the greens. Then they take those and mess them up, adulterate them by putting some kind of fat back or something in them.
Yeah.
Which messes up your system completely.
Yeah.
Environment is and a lot of neighborhoods are set steadfast in the commercial area with factories. The crap is in the dirt, it's in the air.
Yeah, because and we're still tied into the drug thing. I'm gonna say this, then we're gonna get back on that topic. Like I said, I'm a freak for research. I love to do research to find out things and to try to make them verified or confirmed as opposed to assuming a guess hearing it from the third party. And a long story short, because this could be a topic within itself. About 70 years ago, the main diet or staple in this country, grain, was millet. I had never heard of millet. I've never had millet. And I come to find out that millet has a component in it that helps the body stay alkaline, meaning that you cannot develop cancer. And I'm saying to myself, if millet was all that good for the body, why did they stop feeding it to us?
You're not a WASP.
No, real simple. It's about money. It's cheaper to raise corn and wheat because wheat replaced millet. And wheat has gluten in it, which makes the immune system go crazy.
Make it go crazy.
It triggers I think it's the white blood cells to go into battle because they think it's an invader of the body. So unfortunately, they changed what was extremely healthy into something that's not really healthy because it was cheaper to produce and feed people wheat versus millet.
Yeah, like steel cut or oatmeal, completely different than the Quaker stuff. The world's tripped out, and drugs have we back to the drugs,
Yeah.
and drug have its place. Heroin, cocaine, reefer. It's the way you use it. It wasn't meant to be, romanticized. It's the way you use these drugs were great big old painkillers, but man decided that well we can make some money. At one time
Where it became recreational
it
drugs as
became
opposed
retro
to
right.
under the doctor's care to use them. Because, like you said, those drugs that we mentioned are initially were medicines to help with the treatment of illness, as opposed to I'm gonna take this home and take a whole bunch of it.
Yeah, well, and in my lifetime, I drank Coca-Cola. When I was a kid, there was cocaine in
Yeah,
Coca-Cola.
originally it was. Yeah.
Originally it was.
And they used to use it because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the barber, this is like hundreds of years ago, the barber was also the dentist.
The dentist, right?
And he would
And
pull
the,
your
the
teeth.
medical doctor,
Yeah,
period.
right. So they would use these, like the cocaine as an anesthetic to keep you from experiencing a great deal of pain.
Right.
But somebody decided, to start selling it as a recreational drug, and it just became a mess because, again, this show is mainly geared towards helping our young folks. And trust me, I know that, you get into this peer pressure thing, but if you got a strong foundation at home to tell you, hey, we love you, trust us because we have your best interests at heart, as opposed to your friend who just want to get high and needs somebody else to get high with him. So that's what kept me away from it too, because one of my closest friends in grammar school, how we first met was he was trying to make me smoke. And I was like, I don't want that poison, man.
Yeah.
Take it. You ain't going to be cool. I don't want to be cool. We literally got into a fist fight. Then that's when he realized, I got to respect this man because he's sticking to his guns.
Yeah.
He don't want it. He
Don't
ain't
want
going to
it.
have it. So after that, he bagged up off me. And long story short, that was back in the 70s when we were teenagers. Now he's in rehab.
Well, back in the 60s and the 50s and the early 60s, cigarettes were advertised on TV as a romantic
Yeah.
thing. It was all up in the movies. You would see two people making out, and then you see them in bed with the covers up to here, And he would light 2 cigarettes and give her one.
Yeah.
Cigarettes was really hooked
They
up.
glorified it.
They glorified it.
And they still kind of glorify it, but I think the younger culture is trying to veer away from it because now everybody, and it's a good thing, but they initially doing this for vain reasons because now the guys on the entertainment business got the shirt off and showing their six-pack.
Yeah.
And in order to have that, you got to work out
You
and
got to
eat
work
right.
out. You can't smoke. You smoking no cigarettes.
So it's like, I really don't care how you get there, as long as you get there. And, I'm glad to see that they are getting there, even though it's for vain reasons or vanity reasons.
And another thing why they dine cigarettes out in the United States, that's because there are some third world countries are taking the marketplace that the United States used to have. China was one of the biggest smokers in the world. And when I found out, I couldn't believe it. 80 billion.
Oh, yeah.
It's stripped out. All that business going over to China and those little third world countries, they got them. I'm still trying to quit smoking.
Yeah, I imagine it's
Talking about it makes me want to
very difficult. But on that note, because this is a topic we can actually do a part 2 of, because food and drugs tie in together. But on that note, we're going to sign off, and until next time, keep thinking. I'm Morris Mann, your host, and my co-host.
Joseph Spencer.
Take care. Thank you.